So today we begin a series of sorts in the nitty-gritty things that I think about. Not that the things that we've discussed before have not been analytical or nitty-gritty with the meanings of words and stuff like that, but we're going to talk as we go, and today we're going to talk about one of what I like to call translations. Basically, a translation is just if there's this concept or this principle that I find to be worth noting, or something that I think would be good to live by, like a life motto, except not a life motto because it's not like a end-all phrase, and there's a bunch of them anyway. Just if I think it's worth remembering, then I will translate it into a way that I understand it and that I think conveys the principle properly and concisely, and then I can just remember. So the principle or the translation that I wanted to talk about today is this. I don't care what people think, I care what people see. That's it. Now, the concept that stems from begins with this whole self-conscious and changing with the times ideal or ordeal that people have. And I'm going to make a couple of distinctions as we go, and this is one of them, between these two terms, being self-conscious and changing with the times. I think there's a difference between what we would refer to as an insecurity and just wanting affirmation from people, because an insecurity is more concerned with things that are negative about you, or things that people might think are wrong with you, and wanting affirmation from people is just concerned with the positive aspects of you, hoping that people see the good things, the things that are right with you, or the things that they agree with. So I think there's a little bit of a distinction there, but so either one of those, I don't care what people think. Now, the second distinction here is that hearing that, I don't care what people think, you might say, well, that's actually a pretty common cultural affirmation. The do away with the haters, and do you, boo, and all that stuff. That's a little bit different, I think, than what I'm saying here. It's not just I don't care what people think because I'm entitled to my opinion. I think I'm entitled to my opinion, or because I have the free will to do as I please. I don't care what people think out of spite, or just because I want to be obnoxious. No, I don't care what people think because either way, no matter what they think of me, it's not that, it doesn't sway me much. I've mentioned before that I was never the most insecure person. I have insecurities, but they just don't affect me. They don't sway me as much as other people that I know. The desire to want people to see the good things about me and to like me and to include me, or the repulsion to the idea that people might not like me, or they think I'm ugly because X, Y, Z, or something like that. That's not an issue as much for me. I've talked about before that I've always sort of been against the grain anyway. So I was opposed to what people naturally accepted anyway, and so all of that sort of just like emphasized itself as time has gone on. So that's that layer to it. And then the next degree, the next level of that is to say the reason that I don't have to care what people think is because, one, my identity and my value, who I am, is not founded in the opinions of other people, or if people accept me, then I'm worth something, because my identity is found in what God says, what God thinks, because what he says is reality, is the truth. And to just say, why care what people think if, how we've talked about before, there is a consequence to living and speaking, in accordance with the truth or not in accordance with the truth. And if God is the keeper and the creator of the truth, then why would I care? Why should I try to appeal to other people? And of course, easier said than done, right? Like I said, I have these insecurities and these desires to please people. But it's just keeping this in mind. This is just something that I like to live by, and it helps with that stuff. And so that'll be emphasized here, because the next step to this, obviously, the next half of the phrase to say I care what people see, is that if I'm keeping in mind that I don't care what people think, I care what God thinks, then what I do care about what God thinks will exemplify itself. Is that the word? Anyway, it'll show itself in what I do and what I say. So people will see me living with integrity and not being a hypocrite, and living in this way that I think is good and just so happens to be against the grain, 9 times out of 10. So because of these things, then I don't have to care what people think. I can just care what I'm showing people. And so then that's the last distinction, is there's a difference between being self-conscious and being conscientious. I'm not worried, or I'm not anxious about the opinions of other people, or that they would even agree with me or disagree with me. Not even that just they like me or they don't like me, but I'm not worried if they actually agree with me or if they don't agree with me. I just want to be authentic and to live in the way that I know is a good way to live. And that is to live in concern with what God thinks, with what God says. And it's not a fear. It's not that I'm doing away with people because I'm just trying to be a good Christian boy or something like that. It's that the truth compels me to do this. The truth compels me to share this stuff. And so no matter where you stand, of course, if I stand over here, the people who are standing over here as well will relatively like me. And the people who are standing over here will relatively not like me, and most likely will disagree with me, and vice versa if I'm standing over here. So either way, there is going to be positive and negative opinions about you, the general you. So it shouldn't matter either way what they believe or what they think of you, if you're doing if you're being authentic about it. But back again, there is a consequence to how we live, and if we're being authentic and if we're being sincere, like we've talked about before, in something that's not good and something that's not beneficial, that doesn't have substance, then it's really not worth being sincere about. And you might as well just change what you think. And you can steal this too if you want. Sue you if you try to do this too. Think about it this way: I don't care what people think, I care what people see. Because, like I said, I think a lot of people struggle with this idea, this gripe with the opinions of other people, or those two sides of not wanting people to think negatively of you, and then also hoping that people see the positive things about you and accept you for those things and all that. And then also just to be living in accordance with what you believe to be true. If you've come to a conclusion about something, it's good to follow through with it. And so that's why I do that. And so this is just a good reminder for me in that. And it helps. And at the time, all of this stuff comes from the Bible anyway. This whole principle, it's all over the place. That's the the main thing, like I mentioned earlier, it's like I'm concerned with what God's word is, what God says, not with what other people say. And that's the gist of it. And that's about it. There's more details that you can go into, obviously. Like I said, this is nitty-gritty stuff. This is just the more like personal, I guess, aspects of my thoughts. And I'm just sharing it with you. And I hope that it can be worth something. Well, I know it's worth something because it came from him, like we talked about last week. Was it last week? Yeah, he said it. So, what are you gonna do? But that's about it. So, yeah, I'll see you next week. Another song. I'll probably figure out what song we're gonna play next week. I don't know. Okay, bye.